can you possibly homeschool and work full-time at the same time? And I want to say the answer is unequivocally yes, you can. I know you can because I've done it. I've done it many different ways, and I want to share with you the way that I have done it. Hi everyone, it's Aunt Lavi from Medical Missionary Kids, and I am so glad that you have decided to join me again today on our channel where we talk about homeschooling, parenting, and helping our children fall in love with Jesus Christ. And today I am talking about something really interesting, which is, can you possibly homeschool and work full-time at the same time? And I want to say the answer is unequivocally yes, you can. I know you can because I've done it. I've done it many different ways, and I want to share with you the way that I have done it. But the first thing I want you to assess is why. Why do you want to homeschool? Now, in my experience, people homeschool for many different reasons, but it kind of boils down to three main reasons. Number one, you want to have control of the curriculum. You want to have control of your child's environment, or you want to be the main influence over their life while they're at a young age. And usually it's a combination of all three of those things. That's why I chose to homeschool. I knew that character development was very important, especially in the early years when my sons were under the age of 7. And so that's what I chose to do. Now, I'll share with you my experience because my kids are almost 5 years apart. I have two boys. One is 13 now in the 9th grade, and one is 8 in the 3rd grade. And I had two different homeschooling experiences with them. My oldest, I did not work full-time all the way through, I would say, the time that he was maybe 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old. I did not work full-time. And in fact, I started to work when my youngest was about 4 years old, 4.5 years old. And I'll just tell you my story and my transition, and I'll share it really quickly, but hopefully you can learn from it and you can learn how you can homeschool full-time as well. Now, when my son was about 10 years old, I had to go back to work full-time. So what I did was enroll him in the private Christian school that I found that we really liked. We enjoyed their curriculum. And in fact, my children were at that school for almost 2 whole years. And so my youngest was there in pre-K and kindergarten, and my oldest was there like in 5th and 6th grade. Coming from homeschool, it was kind of a transition because we didn't necessarily have a grade. He was on many different grade levels in different subjects. So the beautiful thing about the private school was that it was rather small, so they had multiple grades in one classroom. The teacher was a STEM expert, so she really helped him grow and thrive there. But one of the things that I was able to do, because I had to work full-time, is I worked at the school. I volunteered my time, and I eventually worked there at the school so I could be there in their presence while they were at school, because I had to make money too. I had to earn a living, but I also wanted to be there, have an influence over them. So I was actually in my youngest son's pre-K classroom. So that was one of the ways that I was able to be there with him while he was learning. And my oldest was in the class with the other kids, and he had a great experience, and I was able to check in on them, prepare lunch, all of that great stuff. Of course, it was a very small school, so we were able to do that. But as we moved away from that school, physically, we were no longer able to attend. And we had such a great experience there, and the pandemic hit. So I really wanted to keep them at home during that time. In fact, I kind of found the pandemic to be a blessing because we didn't have any other choice. So I will just go ahead and tell you how I was able to work full-time while homeschooling. There are 4 different ways you can do it, and guess what? I've tried them all. The number one way that might actually sound like the easiest way to work full-time while you have kids is to make sure that you have childcare if you work outside of the home. So for me, I was able to work at night. I had an overnight shift, and I worked in someone's home. And so I was able to actually get a little bit of rest at night so that when I came home the next day, I wasn't completely exhausted. My mom took care of my boys for me, so I was able to get a little bit of sleep, make up that sleep that I wasn't getting at nighttime, and then when I was awake, I was able to homeschool them. So if you have a close family member, if you have someone to help take care of your children, then of course it's super easy because they can get breakfast ready while you're still sleeping, and then when you wake up, you can just go right into homeschooling. So that is one option. Now, another option is, let's say you don't work the night shift, you work the day shift. So, like I said, having a really great caretaker is a wonderful option. Now, we talked about why. Are you trying to control the environment? Are you trying to control the curriculum? Or are you trying to be the main influence over their education? If it's just environment and curriculum, then setting up the curriculum and then giving it to your child care provider is something that you're able to do. You can either find a babysitter or a nanny to come in, or collaborate with other parents who stay at home and are homeschooling, and you guys can develop the curriculum together so that while you are at work, they can be teaching your child the thing that you want your kids to learn in the environment that you trust, being influenced by people that you know are a safe influence for them. So that's kind of 2 and 3 different things you can do there. You can have a child care, caretaker take care of your kids and homeschool them for you, or do like a parental co-op with other parents where they are homeschooling your kids while you are away, but you still pick the curriculum for them. Another thing you can do if you can't do that, but your kids are a little bit older, so you don't have to have them in daycare, is you can do something that I had to do, which was I had to do 2 different things. One was split shift, and one was use technology. So when my kids were at home, I didn't work very far, maybe 15 minutes from the office. So I would set up their day for them. I would write it out, give them the plan the night before, set it up for them, and then I would go to work. And when I would come home on my lunch break. Sometimes I would come home early on my lunch break, maybe 11 or 10, so I can check in with them. Now my youngest, he wakes up pretty early. My oldest likes to sleep in. And so I would have to come home and kind of get my youngest situated and prepared, and then have them set up for the day, and then they can continue the day when I go back to work. Now, on those days, I usually worked really short hours, so I could be home with them by about 1 o'clock for the rest of the afternoon and just come check in on them at lunchtime. Another thing you can do is, if you live in a safe neighborhood, if you trust your kids to be home alone, is you can actually use technology and Zoom. So what I would do is I would have my camera set up while I was at work, and I would be monitoring my kids throughout the day. And I would just have my phone set up with Zoom on, and if my son had a question, he would pop on the camera and say, "Mama, I have a question with math," or "I have a question with this," and I would work through that with them while they were at home. Now, that is not necessarily ideal, but like I said, if you have kids that are at home, that are safe at home, or you have a caretaker at home with them, that's what you can do. In fact, I used to have my mom at home with them, and I would still do that because I was more hands-on with education. So she would just kind of oversee and make sure that they were focused, but I would be the one that was really teaching them and making sure that they followed the curriculum. So any combination of those things is what you can do. Like I said, if your kids are younger, then you really have to have a caretaker, or you might have to work the night shift. But if they're a little bit older and more responsible, then you can leave them at home, set up the curriculum, set up the plan for them, and just monitor them on the camera while you're at work. So we thank God for technology. And then, or if you work close enough to home, you can come and check on them. But one of the best things you can probably do is just work a shift that would allow for you to go to work and still come home and check on them. So maybe if you work in the afternoon and you homeschool them in the morning. Or if you work from home, then you would just do the same thing. You would set up the curriculum for them, place them in their room with their chores, with their assignments, and then ever so often, or you set up your schedule and then you go check on them, you go teach them on your lunch break. But it's possible. You just have to be creative and do what you have to do. But if the Lord has placed it on your heart to homeschool your children, then I want to encourage you to do so. Even if you're working full time, find a friend, find a loved one that can watch your kids for you while you are at work, and you can still provide the best education for them. In the next video, I'll talk about what curriculum you can use, how to create a curriculum for them. But in the meantime, I just want to pray for you and your family that you follow God's leading and God's prompting on your heart.